They say real strength doesn't come when life is easy. It comes when everything falls apart and you still choose to stand. My name is Claire, and this is the story of how I stood up, even after being left when I needed someone the most. It happened 3 years ago. I was 26. I wasn't rich. I didn't have a fancy apartment or a glamorous life, but I had peace, a job that paid the bills, a few friends who cared, and I was okay with that. One day, I went to a tiny shop in the city to fix my phone. That's where I met Noah. He wasn't charming in the loud way. He was gentle, attentive. He looked me in the eye when he spoke. We talked while he fixed my phone, and something about the way he listened made me feel seen. Before I left, he gave me his number. That same evening, I called him. And then I called him again the next night. And the one after that. Before I knew it, we were talking every day. Noah and I had so much in common. We both came from quiet towns. We both loved long walks at night and homemade food. And we both wanted something real. Within weeks, we were inseparable. We spent evenings cooking, laughing, and building the kind of closeness I had never really had before. He didn't have a lot of money, but he had warmth. He made me feel safe, and that felt like everything. 6 months into our relationship, he asked me to move in. I said yes, without hesitation. I left my little apartment and brought my whole world into his. We shared rent, cooked side by side, dreamed about the future. I thought I had found the man I would build a life with. But slowly, things began to change. He came home later. He stopped asking about my day. He seemed distant, there, but not really present. He started sleeping with his back to me, started answering my questions with one word. When I asked him what was going on, he said, "I'm just tired." But sometimes silence is a louder answer than words. Then one morning, I felt sick. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up. I thought it was just something I ate, but it happened again the next day and the day after that. Something in me just knew. I bought a pregnancy test, sat on the edge of our bed, hands shaking. Positive. I didn't know what to feel. Tears fell down my cheeks, fear and joy mixed together. I was scared, but a tiny part of me felt hope. I waited for him to come home that night. When he walked through the door, I said, "Noah, we need to talk." He looked tired. I looked terrified. "I'm pregnant," I said. He froze, then sat down, put his head in his hands, and didn't say a word. After a long silence, he said, "Are you sure?" I nodded. He stood up and began to pace. Then he said, "I can't do this. I never wanted this." I stared at him. I didn't understand. I said, "We can figure it out together." But he shook his head. "I don't want this life." Then he picked up his jacket and walked out the door. That was the last time I saw him. He didn't come back that night, or the night after. I called. I texted. Nothing. 5 days later, I received one message. "I'm sorry. This is not what I want." Then he blocked me. Just like that, he was gone. I cried every day. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I just lay there, holding my belly, whispering to the tiny life inside me, I'm still here, I won't leave you. I didn't tell anyone at first, not my parents, not my friends. I was ashamed, afraid of being judged, afraid of looking like a failure. But more than anything, I felt alone. Then something shifted. One morning, I looked in the mirror, eyes swollen, spirit tired, and I said out loud, you don't get to fall apart forever. This child needs you now. And that's when the healing began. I found a tiny room for rent, one bed, a small kitchen, and a second-hand crib. I went to the doctor alone. When I heard my baby's heartbeat for the first time, I cried. But for the first time in weeks, they were happy tears. I said to that sound, I will never leave you. I started working again, saved money, bought baby clothes, read about pregnancy and birth. I still cried at night, but now I wiped my tears and kept going. People stared at me on the street, some with pity, some with judgment. But I held my head high. This baby was mine, and I was not going to give up. My body ached, my back hurt, my legs felt heavy, but I kept walking to work, rain or sun, tired or strong, because now I had purpose. Then one night, it happened. The pain started. I called a taxi and went to the hospital alone. Hours of labor, hours of silence and breathing and pain, until a cry. And then the nurse placed a tiny boy in my arms. He was warm. He was beautiful. He was mine. I named him Leo. And when I looked into his eyes, I said, you are safe now. I will never leave you. The first weeks were hard. No sleep, no help. But I didn't care. Because every time I looked at Leo, I felt stronger. I didn't feel like someone who had been left. I felt like someone who had been chosen by life to love this child with everything I had. Eventually, I found work at a small grocery shop. I carried boxes, stocked shelves, cleaned floors. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid for food, rent, diapers. And every evening, I'd come home to Leo's smile. He would crawl to me, say, Mama. That word, it healed parts of me I didn't know were broken. A year passed. Leo started walking, then talking. He laughed at everything. His tiny hands wrapped around my fingers gave me strength I never knew I had. One evening, while building blocks on the floor, he looked at me and asked, Where's Papa? I paused, then I said, Papa is not here, sweetheart, but Mama is. And Mama is always here. He nodded, okay, Mama, then kept playing. My heart broke a little, but it also healed a little too. And then, one day, my phone rang. It was Noah. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Claire, he said, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I want to be in Leo's life. I was quiet, then I said, you weren't there when we needed you. Now we don't need you to come back. He whispered, I understand. I just want to help. But I knew the truth. We were already okay. That night, I looked at Leo, asleep in his bed. I smiled, picked up Noah's number, and tore it to pieces. Because sometimes the people who leave make space for the strength you never knew you had. Today, Leo is 3. He goes to preschool. He draws me pictures. He hugs me with his whole little heart. And every time he laughs, I remember something important. This story didn't end when someone left. It began when I decided to stay, for him and for myself.